Hello Redditors, welcome back to Tales Against Humanity. Now, let's get started. In today's episode,
the dog park and a dog with a life vest. So I'm not exactly sure if this is malicious compliance or petty revenge, but it sure does fit in one of the above. So I have a couple of dogs, and the dog in the story is mostly golden retriever. His mom was pure golden and his father is unknown. He looks like a golden until you put him next to a golden. One thing he gets from the retriever side is retrieving. His name is River Dragon in Thai because that's where I got him from. So he's about 2.5 years old and still a teenager, and it's not always easy to go to the dog park with him. He's very possessive about his balls, just like his owner. Wink wink, nudge nudge, know what I mean. So we just had a spring rain here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is not United States of America, and I decided to go to the dog park at the lake with him to throw the ball into the lake and give him some exercise. The dog park in question is about 200 m long and split pretty close to 50/50 split by a creek. There are car parks on either end. I go to the far end and River Dragon and I are alone in the whole dog park. Perfect. I have a chucket and a special ball that's hard for him to chew, which is fluorescent orange and blue, kind of like Oilers colors. I throw it as hard as I can with that, and he swims for a long time to go get it. This is exercise for him, not me. About 50 ft away from the end of our side is a picnic table that I put all of my gear on: phone, Yeti, leash. I usually have a good amount of time between throws, so I sit on the picnic table waiting for him. After a bit, a woman comes along with her large small dog or small medium dog and a kid in a stroller. Probably about 20 lb. The dog has a life vest, if that means anything. She plops herself down directly in front of the gate, which is about 30 ft away from me. If you scroll up, you will remember that this is an empty beach. To draw a parallel, you might understand it's like being in an empty movie theater and having someone sit right next to you when there are hundreds of seats to choose from. No problem. She throws a tennis ball, which is nearly universally known to be bad to throw for dogs because they're easily broken. She throws it about 10-15 ft into the water because her dog with the life vest, is not a real swimmer like my guy. No problem. I tell her maybe it's better for them to make a little bit space from my dog because he's retriever and he retrieves things. Also, he's a natural-born swimmer, and I'm not convinced her dog with a life vest is a natural-born swimmer. She looks at me and repeats some phrases that are meant to placate. Yeah, no problem, no worries, it's okay, it's all good. I know from experience that it's not okay, there are worries, it's not all good, etc. My dog can have 2 tennis ball-size balls in his mouth. I also know from experience that if something pops in the water anywhere near, he will try to get it. Okay. So to the surprise of no one except for this chick, who is clicking like, swiping right, updating her status, or whatever the fuck she's doing on her phone, while simultaneously ignoring her kid in the stroller and throwing a tennis ball to her life vest-clad dog 10 ft away. My dog proved his lineage and retrieved that ball before the dog could. Sorry for the run-on sentence, but it was a good one, you have to admit. He can't chew his orange ball cause it's heavy duty, but he will try to chew. This time I get her tennis ball from his mouth. I load my chucket with his ball and throw it. He goes. I underhand the tennis ball to her and tell her that maybe she should at least try to synchronize her throws so that he's deep in the lake before she throws a ball to avoid that happening again. No problem, it's all good, everything's going to be all right. And some more phrases that I can't remember at this time, but mean that same shit. Okay. She's not really paying attention to her cadence with the balls and our dogs. The beach is still empty, she is still nice and close and clicking like, swiping right, updating her status or whatever she is doing on the fucking phone. Didn't take very long before I do a good throw out into the lake and my dog is coming back, and she throws it by hand 15 to 20 ft away from the shore and my dog sees the splash. My dog is a retriever and he doesn't have a life vest. He can swim very well and definitely quicker than a dog with a life vest. He gets the tennis ball in his mouth along with his orange ball, comes into shore and runs just like the first time, except this time his owner doesn't try to take that tennis ball away from him. He drops his orange ball, lays down on the sand and starts chewing the tennis ball. Didn't take too long before there's a bit of a pop, and the tennis ball is in 2 pieces and he's starting to chew it into much smaller pieces. At this point I intervene, 'cause I don't want a vet to be pulling tennis ball chunks out of his ass. My guess is dollar store tennis ball, not Wimbledon level. I load up the orange ball, throw it out into the lake and hand the chunks of tennis ball back to the girl. Believe it or not, she starts beaking. I said, "No problem, it's okay, everything's going to be all right." Story 2. Cast so loud to keep the baby up, not on my watch. I 20F. Babysit my fiance's niece, 2F, during the week. The house is set up in a way so his older brother and his wife have the entire basement, including all the baby stuff, while the rest of the family splits the space upstairs. Usually things are pretty uneventful, but lately my fiance's younger brother has been playing extremely loud music, to the point the bass is shaking the walls downstairs, on the living room TV upstairs. I never said much since usually his mom would ask him to turn it down. However, he just turns it back up after 10 minutes. This prevents me from getting niece down for her nap and results in a crabby baby the rest of the day. A few days ago I had to take care of niece upstairs, and when I went to him and asked to use the TV in the living room, he huffed and said fine before going to take a shower. While he was in there, the niece decided it was a good time to stink everything up, so I took her downstairs to her change room, leaving Blues playing on the TV. On the way back up, I heard the TV start blasting loud music, and when I got to the top saw the younger brother standing there in his robe, couldn't even get dressed first. Phone in hand casting. After that, I took niece to the room I share with my fiance. Now the revenge part. Younger brother only has Spotify while I have the Google Home app. When he went to cast his super loud music, I would turn it all the way down. He would recast and turn it up only for me to repeat the process. I at one point heard him yelling through the floor at one point, however, eventually he went back to his room and listened to his music there with his Bluetooth speaker. While it's still loud AF, it's at least quiet enough that the baby will sleep and the bass isn't shaking the house. Later on he tried it again with the same thing happening. I just can't wait to see him ask everyone else to see it works fine for them. Story 3. Box Store Batty. This happened a few years ago, and I think about it from time to time, which makes me laugh. I had started a plumbing project at my house and bit off more than I could chew. I was in over my head, and this was my second time at the home improvement store that day. I was in the plumbing aisle looking at a bunch of different connections trying to find the right one. In walks dude. You know those tall staircases on wheels to reach stuff on top shelves? There was a mini version of that about 5 steps with a probably 4x4 platform at the top. There's a railing around it, so altogether is probably 6-7 ft tall. Dude walks into the aisle and starts pushing the staircase towards me, and I don't think much of it. As he comes closer and closer, I can't focus cause I'm wondering what he's doing. Dude ends up pushing this staircase directly in front of me. I actually had to step back cause he was about to hit my foot. Of course then, he proceeds to walk up the staircase directly in front of me without saying a word. I was totally dumbfounded and annoyed. I stood there for a minute in shock, and I wanted to be like, hey, what's your problem? But I'm not a confrontational person. But I am petty. Dude left the other items he was shopping for on the platform behind him. It was all a bunch of small stuff that had very specific sizes: wood screws, outlets, wall anchors, and other stuff. I decided screw this, and as he was preoccupied looking for a plumbing part, I grabbed all this stuff and quickly walked out of the aisle. I'm not proud of this part, but I went a few aisles down and threw all of it behind a shelf where it probably still sits to this day. I had other stuff to shop for, so I didn't go right back to the plumbing aisle, but I ended up seeing him not long after looking a little disheveled in the screw aisle, trying to find the right size wood screws. If he would have just said excuse me, or acknowledged my existence in any way, shape, or form when almost hitting me with the staircase, all would have been forgiven.